Games, board games, board games. I'm talking about board games, but I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing. And two days ago, I had a meeting for a game you might know. It was called Seize the Power, and it's still called that. I don't mean to confuse you, and we had a meeting with Rose and Luke and his, and we talked about where the game is and where it should go and what we should change, and some things that I wanted to talk about came into my brain. So I'll talk about exploring changes, even if you don't change anything. It's what I'm talking about. And the concept of content versus structure. And I'm not gonna shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. I am Bez. It is about 10 a.m. UK time, which means that it's time for another Bezzy Beats and Board Game Blether episode. Today, talking about exploring other options, going into a meeting thinking, hey, this isn't quite working, let's try these things. And just to give a bit of context, when I went to the Inside the Box office, we talked about Seize the Power. It's working well. I'm excited to see people play it. But fundamentally, the revolutions aren't quite doing their job. In terms of a game mechanism, they're there to offer people who are being stamped down some route to clamber on top. They're not quite doing that. It feels like they needed a little bit more oomph. And so the development team, Luke and Rose at Inside the Box, had tried just beefing them up, but then we talked about other solutions, making it so that, hey, maybe all of these revolutions, they can mutate rules. You can put rules on top of, you can put little things. So the whole game is about having these rules that you control, and maybe you mutate the rule and then you grab it. But then as we talked theory crafting, we said, well, if you mutate the rule but then you leave it with that person, that's kind of problematic. If you in the end, you might end up just wanting to mutate your own rule, and that feels weird, like the whole message of positive discrimination. And if that's guaranteed, then that's going to change what people should do in terms of game theory, because if their expected benefit from doing a revolution is more than actually purchasing a rule, that kind of bypasses an entire mechanism. So that's not good. And then in the end, we said, well, that idea of making rules and that idea of the other idea of having rules that govern things that happen when a revolution happens, these are all still things that we can use just within the basic structure of revolution. And that got me thinking, like, when do you change the structure? When do you change the content? And at what point is it appropriate to explore things? And that's something I wanted a wee bit of a blather about. Firstly, though, let's talk about some recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. What have been some of your recent highlights? What have you been up to? I'll tell you what some of my recent highlights were. Firstly, I got some cards delivered to me. So these are what I'm going to call cosplay cards. So at every convention I go to from now on, if you see me, or if you see people at my stand, and every convention that I'm at, I will probably have a stand, whether that's Aircon or Dicini or UK Games Expo. Yeah, like, what, at Essen, I'll I might not have my own stand, but I'll give them to Vagard to give out from that Simplicitous stand. And so while stocks last, and I've got 300 of them. So while stocks last, if you are doing any cosplay, you can get one of these double-sided little creatures. And so it's like a little human who is trying to be who is cosplaying as one of my creatures. Obviously, you don't need to cosplay as something that I made. Cosplay as anything you want. If you're cosplaying as a planeswalker or cosplaying as a goldfish, I don't know, whatever you're cosplaying as, just come over and say, hey, can I grab one of the cosplay cards? This is my cosplay. And then we'll say, yeah, absolutely. Can we take a quick photo of you? We'll grab a photo of you and then we'll, give you a card. That's basically what's going to happen from every convention from now on. And so I'm super excited. Hopefully this will encourage more people to do a little bit of cosplay. So yes, cosplay cards. The second bit that I got was Aircon promo cards. So if you're at Aircon 2022, and again, this is going to happen at every convention that I go to, you can get a promo card in one of three ways. So either you buy the game, a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises, or you do a demo of the game, a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. And if you win, then I will just give you a promo card. The third way is if you've already bought a copy, just bring it along to the convention. Now, I need you to actually bring it because even if I trust you, there is a benefit for me for people bringing it, saying, hey, here's my thing. And then if you bring it to the convention, there's a little bit of a possibility that you might play it and it's reminding you to get it out. And it's a tiny bit of work. It shouldn't be too much work. I mean, it's fairly small. It should fit into your pocket, won't take too much space to bring it. And in return, every convention that I'm at, I will give you a brand new card. So this is the one for Aircon. You can see there's a little Aircon logo and also Mark and Ben on the sides. And for Dicini, I'm not sure what I would put there, but maybe something about Norwich. If, I'll try to make it vaguely relevant to the or UK Games Expo. It'll be a monstrous version of the organisers there, and then Tabletop Scotland and Drag Meets and all the places I go, you will grab a brand new card. It'll be a brand new card at every convention I go to. And also I'm talking with Adam Best, who's running a charity auction in Herefordshire. And so anyone who donates for that physically will be able to get one of the cards. So that was super exciting. And finally, I got actual copies of my third Bezzy bargain bag, a game about drawing creatures, complementing the drawings, then complementing the complements. And that is that. And just give me a moment. I do apologize. So yes, with this on one side, you've got all the creature features that say things like skinny arms, or a fun skirt, or a thin, flexible tongue, or huge eyes. And on the other side, it's got things that guide you towards doing better compliments, like, did they have a unique approach for the communal objectives? If they did, then obviously compliment that. Look at all the details. Is there a part that stands out? That's something you can compliment. A compliment is a way of shining a light on what is positive so others can see it clearly. Remember that. And feel good about your compliments and share that joy. And did you feel loved? It's good to appreciate the appreciation. And hello, Chris. Just showing off the new things that came. So that was that. There is a small mistake, unfortunately. So on the cards, two of them, these two were meant to be together, the front cover and the page 1 of the rules. But sadly, these had this on the other side. So basically that means that there's 51 creature features that you can use rather than 52. But I calculated how many possibilities there is, and the number is still, it's got 63 zeros in it, so it's still like a ridiculous number of combinations. So it's still plenty enough. It's still a great game, and it's still worth the money that people will be paying for it, because gosh darn it, it's a busy bargain bag. But anyway, that's that. Anyway, brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? Brilliant. Juice. Juice is brilliant. I'm going to have a wee sip of juice. Recently, what I've started doing actually is I drink the juice slowly until it's like about halfway down, and then once it's like halfway or 1/3 down, then I just dilute the rest with water, because I still get the enjoyment, the satisfaction. And so I think diluted things, and I'm not talking about homeopathic remedies where they give you so little that it's basically not going to work, probably, but when you can still actually taste the thing, or just a wee bit, because sometimes it's good to drink water, but let's be honest, it's not as attractive. My hand goes to the bottle that's flavored rather than the one with pure water. And London tap water, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not as good as Glasgow tap water, let's be honest. But anyway, feel free to comment, ask questions, follow. Back onto my main topic, is seize the power. So talking about changes to be made to the game, we explored what could be done to the structure. It's really easy to think, okay, this part of the game isn't working, therefore we need to change the structure. We need to change how the auctions work. We need to change how the revolutions work, maybe. And then we talked about ideas. I don't think, and good morning, Josie. I don't think Inside the Box are going to mind me giving the information, even though it's not officially public. I mean, we talked about the revolutions and how, what if you could mutate them? What if it wasn't just two people that you need for a revolution, but what if it's like an auction? Like, some people go on the pro-revolution side, some people want to support the status quo, and it becomes like a bid. And then we worked out the maths, kind of thinking, well, if there's 4 players, that means that it's almost always going to change as soon as you get to second person, because you've got to convince not only the person who's being targeted, but also like both of the other people to support the status quo, which is a big ask if they've got to put in energy, which is a major resource in the game. So your resources are education, I guess actions. You've got 2 actions per turn. Education, energy, money is the big one. The rules in front of you are kind of a resource that you could give away, but no one's going to give that away. And so energy is the biggest thing. You've only got a maximum of 5 energy, and you're likely to get maybe 2 energy a turn. So actually putting in 1 energy to say, yes, I support the status quo, then how different is that? I mean, in theory, by just thinking it through, by talking it through, by imagining what you would do as a player, you can realize, wait a minute, this just isn't going to work as we want it to. It would be lovely if there was a mob on this side and a mob on this side, and it kind of supports that. But then you've also got to ask yourself, what are you wanting from this part of the game? Do we want an auction? Do we want the negotiation? Because that negotiation and all that is still present within the rules, within the, hey, I will do this rule for you, but only if you give me a little money. Hey, I will do this rule for you unless you give me money. Like, that threat and that aspect of bribery is already there in the game. It doesn't need to necessarily be a strong aspect in the revolution. And so come to the thought that, well, the revolution is fundamentally a case of giving the people who are doing badly some hope. And there's a game reason for it. There's also an artistic reason for it. It's like we talked about what it means if you subvert something to say, instead of everyone with 4 or more eyes gets 5 money, and then you say everyone with 4 or fewer eyes gets 4 money. And so you subvert the conditions, so you flip it around. What's if you suddenly said, okay, everyone with 3 or more eyes gets 4 money, so at least it's a little bit more egalitarian. But then there's also the issue of, well, players might subvert that. Someone in power could make it so that something that, I guess you have to have rules for something that's been flipped, not being flipped again, and there's all sorts of things. And then we thought, well, we've talked about all these different structures, but actually, it was Rose who brought it up, who said, look, the more we talk, we've talked about like 5 different things, and all of them, either they're not thematic, or they're difficult to follow, or they just basically don't work, and all the ideas have one, generally 2 of these major issues. At which point, okay, let's revisit the content. So revolutions, you need 2 people for a revolution. They join forces, and it's like, okay, we're doing a revolution, flip the card, it happens. And that's it, simple. The person who initiated the revolution has used one of their actions. Again, you only get 2 actions per turn, so it is a fairly big investment. The other person has to invest 1 energy. Not as big, but still a fairly chunky investment. And then if they do that, something major happens, and maybe money gets redistributed. Maybe people get the jobs. Maybe there's a lot of money being redistributed. But then we thought, oh, those, instead of rule mutations, we could just have entire rules. What if you flipped it over and it was just a rule? That could happen. Why not? And so now we've got some rules that are a little bit more communist is probably the wrong word, but a few more rules that are structured around equalizing the wealth and sharing the wealth. So like a rule might be anyone who, if you have the most money, give away 6 money on your turn. And you see that coming. You know that that's the rule. So maybe if someone else does an auction, you actually start wanting to give away money because it becomes a different thing. Maybe before it gets to your turn, you want to give away money to someone else so that you no longer have the most money. It would lead to interesting play behaviors. And all of these rules that are meant to balance the power level and be a sort of catch-up mechanism are from the revolution deck. That's what it's meant to be. It's like rolling a die. Like, I don't know how many there's going to be, but it might be like a whole deck. It might be 30, I don't know, and then, or 20. Then you flip over one, it's, whoa, what's going to happen now? Is it going to be a rule? Is it going to be something that says anytime there's a future revolution, this new thing happens? Is it going to be just something that happens right now? Is it going to be something that you can enforce? And remember, all the rules also give you a point. So that's a very big deal. And so I guess that's the thing. Like when I think about structure versus content, something like this, a game about drawing a game about drawing creatures, complementing the drawings, then complementing the complements. You know, it didn't take that long for the basic rules of the game to be in there. And by the end of the first playtest, it was done. I mean, frankly, 95% of it was done by the start of the first playtest, and then the rest of it was all about how do I work out a whole bunch of creature features, ideally 50 plus, that are all mutually compatible, so you can have there's a lot of things about the legs, long socks, skinny arms, wings, something cat-like, which you could interpret to have whiskers or maybe cat's eyes, anything, sharp teeth. And all of these things you could have at the same time. You could have skinny and furry and long legs. And again, there's a few. And then for the other side, when it's all about something that tells you how to do a compliment, that took me quite a bit of work to generate. And hello, Jess. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well. And so, yes, in the notion of structure versus content, this was very much about the content. That was the thing that took me the time to make. In a game about, quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your beetroots / radishes / turnips. Sure, there's graphical twists that I can make, and that's kind of getting into the content because the graphics actually really matter. So when it gets to the radish version where they'll have crossed arms and crossed legs and little props and necklaces and headphones and a mobile phone with an antennae sticking out, that is kind of content in its own right, but it's the structure of that had to change. And interestingly, in a bind, now known as Yogi was actually all about changing the structure. So I already had the content. I had all these cards that you could do simultaneously. I was really proud of them. But then it was Forrest Bauer who said, you know what, all this slow and sadistic, giving cards to other people, picking on them, then they think of cards to give to other people. I didn't do that for my preschooler class. We just drew a card, did it, drew a card, did it. So I was like, oh, is that even a viable game? And I tried it and there was still fun to be had. And so, yes, sometimes you can change the content. But I guess what I'm saying is if you're designing a game, then think to yourself, are these issues actually a result of the structure or the content? And when you've got cards, you can do so much more. I mean, cards are just brilliant because the amount of text that you can have on one of these, you couldn't have that much text on the side of a die. I mean, sure, you could have like some symbols, you could have some number with a lookup table, but you draw the card and it says right on it exactly what you've got to do. Cards are kind of the ultimate in offering you good content. And so, yeah, again, back to Seize the Power. Currently, there is, for the last quarter of the game, some people get a little bit dejected with the auctions, don't feel like they have. And so how do we solve that problem? Maybe we make the Revolution cards more powerful. How do we solve the problem of people always bidding the same? Maybe we need more variance in the power levels of the rules. Maybe we need some rules that we accept. Yeah, actually, these are crummy, but you're bidding for them, you're auctioning them, so that's fine. And if someone gets free crummy rules at the start, well, it's not meant to be a super balanced game anyway. It's even less balanced than Cosmic Encounter. Anyway, that's me. That's everything I have to say for today. Question of the day, question of the day. Let me ask a question before we go on our way. Okay, to celebrate the I'm not going to say release, to celebrate me getting and the soon release of a game about drawing creatures, complementing the drawings and complementing the complements. What is the most recent compliment that you can remember that you gave and received? I'm going to say that I got some really lovely compliments when I was thinking about when I made my update on Monday, and that was incredibly meaningful when people said, look, Bez, you don't have to give me a refund because you're doing so much in the board game stuff and I wanted to support you. It's not just about this game. And that really felt emotional because it was specific to me. It felt really meaningful. And the last compliment I can remember that I mean, there's been other compliments in, like, I'm sure last night saying, "Oh, you look nice," or something like that. And it's interesting, but the whole "you look nice," it's like, ideally we're doing something about something that someone's done, but then at the same time not making it so that they feel like they always have to do that thing. Like if someone says to me, "Oh, you looked nicely made up in that photo," then thank you very much. But then if they start saying, "Oh, if they start implying like I should always be fully made up, then that's not great. The last one I gave, yeah, did some very small. I complimented your drawings yesterday, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, so Chris has done some nice micro muckle drawings yesterday, and they were really nice. I mean, to be fair, I didn't go into lots of detail, but there was all this abstract art that kept the whole red and black and white theme, and so it was just really good. But also there was a lot more variation but still within that variation, it looked like it was clearly micro muckle. So good job, Chris.
Yay.
Who is right across from me and possibly a little bit embarrassed. And Josie says, "I am looking forward to the complimenting game, although I think I'll find receiving of compliments quite uncomfortable. I think that as a species, it's good for us to get more comfortable with receiving compliments because compliments are a way for people to say, hey, good job, keep doing that, or hey, I appreciate you. And it's a way. But I think that as humans, we need to get. And Josie often gets complimented on their cooking and recently complimented a friend's latest painting. Good job. If anyone else wants to say, whether you're watching live or watching after the facts, let me know. What were the last compliments you gave / received? Chris, let me know if you're willing to share that. You don't have to.
What?
The last compliments you gave / received.
Oh, well, it would have been from you just now.
What was the last compliments you gave, Chris?
Probably to Nicole.
Okay.
Just appreciating them.
Them being in your life
Yeah.
as a supportive person. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Like if someone's in your life, it's important to keep reaffirming that. I don't think those kinds of things can be taken for granted. And I think that's what this game reminds us, that even the compliment itself has value, and even the compliment itself has to be, well, it doesn't have to be, but it can be complimented. And in real life, you aren't going to go into quite as much detail, but in real life you might say, thank you for telling me that. And that is really worthwhile. So as we wrap up, over to you. What are you up to? You can share button if you want to. So I've got a friend coming over tonight to stay for a week, and I'm going to try and tidy up that room enough that they can stay on a bed and get a few things out of there. It doesn't need to be perfect, but just kind of clean enough. I'm going to try and get. That is honestly the number one priority today. Other than that, I should think about accommodation for UK Games Expo, think about things further afield, plan out other conventions, and I should probably write out a how to demo article, because I wrote how to demo articles for Grabble, Wibble, and a couple of other games back in the day. When I say back in the day, I mean like 2019, 2018, 2020, back in those carefree days when we, go around and not worry about the pandemic. But now I've got to write a similar article. It's not going to be quite based on quite so much experience, but it'll give people a bit of a head start of, hey, here's how to demo these games. So that's what I'm going to try and write today. Also, I absolutely need to put together the page of the Kickstarter page. So Chris and I are going to maybe do some videos and some graphics and stuff for that. For the Kickstarter for the second Bezzy Bargain Bag, which will feature beetroots and radishes, which I don't have to hand, and also, well, radishes haven't been drawn yet, and turnips. But yes, 3 different decks. So that's it. What are you up to? Anything you want to share? Promise that I care. Something you have to do or something you want to do? Let me know while I recap and wrap up before I finish up. No, that's beetroots anyway.
Yeah, I was just having a look.
Oh, you can have a look here.
Okay.
But yes, recap and wrap up. So I guess what I'm saying is, it was an interesting conversation with Seize the Power, where we talked about historical revolutions and how that's actually transpired and whether there has been reverse racism, because obviously some people talk about that in South Africa. And my understanding after talking to Luke was that reports of that were exaggerated or possibly even completely untrue. Because, yeah. Secondly, yes, you can change the structure of a game without changing its content, and yes, you can change the content of a game without changing the structure. And you need to think about what's appropriate for your specific design problems, and which is more likely to solve everything. If you want to check me out, then please check out Stuff by Bez everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. Search for Stuff by Bez on Facebook, and go to stuffbybez.com/Discord if you want to join the Discord. Stuffbybez.com/streams if you want to check out what I'm up to in future streams. So tomorrow will be a quick 5-minute thing. I'm going to go to playtest, and it will be literally on the streets of London, as I normally do on Friday. You'll get to see some parts of the streets of London, depending on when I leave and how close to the building I am. On Saturday, I am going to meet Joseph Kelly, the winner of the 2021 LDEC design competition. They designed Dwindle, which is a great one-player game for the LDEC. We'll talk about Joseph Kelly, who Joseph is, and also maybe a little bit about how they invented this game. On Sunday will be a cooking show. Monday, I don't know. I'll decide closer to the time unless anyone has any ideas or whatever. Oh, also, Saturday night, maybe I should have put it in my thing, but I'm having an Instagram recording with Adam from Die Rolling. Oh, I'm also recording a podcast today at 3 p.m. Cool. And Tuesday, Jessica Medringham. Wednesday, Alan Paul talking about Aircon. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it will be a personal diary, 10 minutes, a quick thing, talking about Aircon. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this, if you aren't already following the Kickstarter, then please check out and do sign up to my next Kickstarter over here. Check that out. And Josie says, I am off to the theatre tonight. Haven't seen one of the people I'm going with since pre-COVID. The show has kept on being postponed for 2 years because of COVID. Wow, which show is it? That sounds super exciting, and I hope you have a fantastic time. Like, being out there with people again, exciting times. As always, I want to say, if you're able, if you think that some of these shows would be interesting to someone, or indeed if you are able to spread the word of the Kickstarter, even better. I do appreciate that, and hopefully day one we can get as many people backing. Remember, for £1 you will get access to all the print and play files, and be sure to let people know in America everything. They can get all the print and play files for that. Thank you everyone for listening in. I hope that this has been of some interest, like some of you might be designers, some of you might be thinking about design, some of you might just be interested in what's going on behind the scenes for someone who's basically devoted their life to designing and, yeah, creation of games. Oh, enjoy your show. There's something about Jamie. That does sound fantastic. And so for now, there's pretty much only one thing left to say. And that one thing, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye and have a wonderful day. And yes, potentially see you tomorrow. Lots of love. Bye-bye.